Taurus. It's been a while. Welcome back. Today we are going to look at the shape you're shifting out of, the shape you're shifting into, and what that shape shift might look and feel like at this time. I'm going to start by getting a little image inspiration for Taurus. For Taurus, for this particular shape shift. So, 3 images. I'll show you and I'll put them up on the screen so you can see more clearly. We have this beautiful man ray, part of a man ray photo of a single teardrop sort of frozen coming out of the eye. And then a burst into complete joy and laughter and the embrace of togetherness and connection with others. So already in this image, in these 3 images, the sequence is speaking to me of sort of freezing any emotional energy that prevents, or like there's been some perhaps emotional energy that you've been working through that just has this like sudden break. Things suddenly, it's almost like you laugh, you cry so hard that eventually you suddenly switch and break into laughter. And then that laughter, it's like it breaks the emotional energy in a way that is incredibly connective and brings release. Okay, that's a nice energy. Let's look at your shapeshift. We're going to use the Poesis Oracle today to look at the shape you're shifting out of, the shape you're shifting into, and what that might look and feel like for Taurus at this time. Yeah. Okay. Nice. I'll show you in just a moment. Okay. One more. Whoa. So I think your shape shift is, the larger shift is shown here. This feels to me like a much larger shift that is coming through a very like acute situation. We have shifting out of the mind and into the intuition. I like how the mind sort of like Matryoshka dolls just sort of keeps unpacking into something else and something else and something else, and they all sort of like pile onto each other as they expand, and the energy feels really heavy here. It feels really in your head, feels a bit stuck in these like mental spiral processes. And then shifting into intuition feels much more open. There's a lot more flow, a lot more freedom, and that it's funny that they're both sort of showing a split in the mind, but in the intuition card, it feels like the 2 faces or the split mind is at the very least they're looking in the same direction, and something clear is coming out of that. So I feel like there may be one more card to show what this looks and feels like to you, because so the larger shift might be pointing you to shift, to shift from the mainly mental experience or mental cycling that you are experiencing and into a more intuitive felt sense, or like guiding you forward from a place of intuition rather than purely a process of the mind. And what that looks and feels like, we have trigger, silence, and the unknown. So there could be some circumstances that you have been experiencing recently or continue to experience or might experience around the time of this reading that can feel pretty triggering for you. In this card, we're seeing, again, that lightning bolt mainly focused on the head space. This is someone's head turned away, which is interesting. There's a question here for me about like, when does your mind feel triggered, and how is your mind triggered into uncomfortable activation? It's like, what triggers your mental processes into a space that is maybe overactivated or activates then a really sort of intensely frozen emotional space. And then again, there's this like major shift into silence and unknown that feels like a very different energy. It sort of feels like moving away from the trigger, because the face over here is turned towards something else that's triggering it. But there's this experience that maybe you're being invited into with this reading. I mean, we'll keep pulling and see, but to me, this is the space where the intuition speaks. In silence, where there's this sort of opening to what is unknown, and opening to the idea that though your mind may feel incredibly like triggered and activated, you don't necessarily know everything. Maybe there's a lot that's still unknown, and maybe it's not all triggering, you know, like maybe it's not all bad. There could be, I don't know about you, but the pandemic, you know, I'm recording this at a time when the Omicron variant has really made itself known to us, and is pretty intensely activated at the moment. And this continuously happening can really just create this overarching sense of assuming the worst. And there's something here, Taurus, where there's a shift into, like, in the silence, when that triggering gets to kind of quiet down and the intuition can speak more from this deep space of that you need, like, silence. The trigger has to be silenced. The mind has to be silenced for you to be able to feel what is intuitively speaking in you, which could then sort of open doorways to something previously unknown to you. And this could suddenly shift the energy, and like, then it's like, oh my gosh, wow, I was so upset over that. But there's an opportunity to like break out into this beautiful laughter and actually find connection, rather than allowing the mind to keep you isolated in your own triggering thought spiral. Let's keep pulling. Let's go to the tarot now and see what else we can pull from this. So I'm using the Dark Exact Tarot, and I want to get a little bit into this trigger. There's something that's sort of triggering this cycling in the mind that I want to look a little deeper into. What's the trigger for Taurus in this shift? If you've enjoyed the first part of this reading, I invite you to explore the whole thing with me for a season over at The Shifting Space. This spring, 2022, I'm testing out this new space devoted to experiencing the shifts more viscerally in connection with other people for the course of an entire season. I'm inviting no more than 30 folks to join this cohort of original founding members of the Shifting Space. This is a chance for me and you to shape the kind of virtual space we want to be a part of for months and years to come. We'll experiment with bi-monthly movement meetups to feel how our bodies are shifting, a community chat space where we can dish on the shifts, and a podcast where we'll connect the dots of all the revelations we're having throughout the season. If this sounds like what you're into, join me at this early stage of the Shifting Space. It'll never be more affordable than it is right now. And as a reward for your input at these early days of the space, you'll keep your original member rate for life. So, come see what it's all about and watch the rest of your reading at unseenhandstarot.com.